Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hello everybody, my name is Joanna, and a couple of weeks I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw that the author of my favorite book series, Chriselle Dabos, had posted a comic answering a pretty common question made about her books. Will there be a fifth Mirror Visitor book? The answer is no, boom. But what is relevant to this video is that it made me really want to reread The Mirror Visitor. I first read this book series when I was 16, and it enchanted me in a way I have a hard time explaining. As this Tumblr post says, I had never been so emotional over straight people not liking each other my whole life. And so from that Thursday, I ignored all of my responsibilities for 6 days straight, and I reread The Mirror Visitor. And although I still retain much of my love for the series, I realized something while I was rereading them. There are some stuff that The Mirror Visitor says that I don't agree with. Considering most of my channel is based on thinking too hard about the themes of seemingly inoffensive media, this whole situation just made me want to open a discussion about a question that I think about a lot. Can we like media we disagree with?
Guys, I forgot to say while I was swimming, but I think this conversation should be fun, so let's go!
Hello everybody, so my name is Joanna, but I also like to be positive sometimes. Why do we like media in the first place? I think a valid way to start this conversation is wondering why we like certain media in the first place. A factor that I think is pretty relevant to my channel is nostalgia, and so is relatability. Sometimes the things we love are tied to specific moments in our lives. We might love certain books because we read them at the right time, when we were feeling a certain way, or when we really needed them. One of my favorite movies of all time, and it's on my top 4 on Letterboxd, so I really mean it, is But I'm a Cheerleader. But I'm a Cheerleader is a movie about a teenager named Megan Bloomfield who gets sent to a conversion camp because her parents and her friends think she's a lesbian, even though she doesn't agree with that. But turns out she really is a lesbian, and she falls in love with another girl at conversion camp called Graham. The girl is called Graham. The conversion camp is called True Directions. But I'm a Cheerleader is a super fun movie that satirizes gender stereotypes and homophobia in conversion therapy, and it also has RuPaul wearing a t-shirt that says, "Straight is great." It's a good movie, but it isn't perfect. The budget is super low, and one of the main characters is a white gay boy who keeps on talking with a black accent in what I don't think was supposed to be a critique of how English-speaking white queer people tend to appropriate black people's expressions and slang. With that said, it's still one of my favorite movies because I relate a lot to the character of Megan, and I watched it in a time where I really needed it. While I was figuring out my own sexuality, it made me feel really happy. And I'm sure all of you have plenty of examples of media that you like for similar reasons. This emotional connection can make it hard for us to look at these pieces of media critically, because it's not just about the story, it's about what the story means to you. And when something feels like home, it's really hard to question it. Sometimes it feels like a personal attack to do so. Still on the relatability factor, I think relating to something can make us create a pretty big emotional bond to it too. We as humans really crave acceptance in communities, and sometimes going through certain things can feel pretty isolating and lonely. So when we find a book or a movie or a show or a song that we can relate to, that we feel seen in, it makes us feel like we're not alone. This is definitely how I felt when I watched But I'm a Cheerleader for the first time, or when I listened to Lazy Girl by Girls' Generation for the first time, because I am in fact a lazy girl. And lastly, sometimes it's as simple as this: we like media because it's fun. Fun can be a valid reason to enjoy things. I watched 4 seasons of Degrassi because I was having fun with all the teenage angst and drama.
Your dad is gay.
With that said, as we'll get into, I don't think just having fun is enough to justify ignoring harmful messages. So yeah, relatability, nostalgia, and fun factor are valid reasons to enjoy certain pieces of media. They are not the only ones, but they are examples of what I think are valid reasons to enjoy. And I understand that liking something can be pretty personal, so please don't take what I'm going to say next as an attack. But there are some reasons to like media that I don't think are valid. Media is neutral. Every book, every movie, every song, literally all of it carries some sort of ideology, even if it's not trying to be political. Take my videos, for example. You can go to I think my Scooby-Doo video is probably my most thematical neutral video to date, and by watching it, you'll still be able to identify some of my worldviews and opinions, because I as a person am not disconnected from the way I see the world and engage with it. And therefore, this will be translated to everything I produce. So when you tell me you like Better Than Revenge by Taylor Swift, I won't think you are a misogynist who slut shames women. I'll think you like Taylor Swift and to sing really angrily in the shower, which are two valid reasons to like the song and the reasons why I like it. However, if you do tell me you like Better Than Revenge because of the misogynistic slut-shamey lyrics, since you agree with those, then I don't think this is a valid reason to like the song, and I think you should reevaluate your values. I hope you understand that I'm not here to police what anyone likes. I just think sometimes we need to evaluate why we enjoy certain things. This whole thing actually brings us to the concepts of encoding and decoding, which Stuart Hall, the sociologist Stuart Hall, discussed in relation to television media in his essay Encoding and Decoding in Television Discourse. Creators infuse their media with specific messages, which he calls encoding, but the way that we interpret those messages, which would be decoding, depends on our own experiences and perspectives. We can read a piece of media differently from the way it was intended. And for me, that's the main question. Can we separate what we love from a piece of media from the message encoded in it? And more importantly, should we? Should we do that? It's okay to critique media we enjoy. As we were talking about what I consider valid reasons to enjoy a piece of media like nostalgia and relatability, I mentioned that these factors are reasons why we might have such an emotional bond with media. This emotional connection can make it pretty hard for us to look at these things with a critical lens, for reasons I'll talk about soon. So before we talk about these reasons, I just need to say something. It's okay to critique the media we enjoy. This may seem like an obvious statement, but I remember being a 13-year-old K-pop stan who felt like I couldn't say anything remotely critical about any of the groups I enjoyed, or else I'll be labeled an anti. Do you know how hard it was to be simultaneously a once and a so one while the fandoms of these groups were fighting all the time? Stressful times for tween me. This side of my argument is obviously more directed towards younger people who still care about what other people think about their status as fans of something. But I just think we all would be collectively happier if we stopped gatekeeping what it means to be a fan of an artist, or a book, or a song, or a TV show. You're no less of a fan of Stranger Things if you think season 4 sucks. You just have common sense. I get it, our emotional connection to media can make it pretty hard for us to look at these things with critical lens. And sometimes, I don't think it is fear of judgment of others. It's also about not wanting to admit certain things to ourselves. We don't want to acknowledge that we might like something that is bad. We get so wrapped up in the idea that enjoying bad media reflects poorly on us, as if liking problematic or flawed content could make us bad people too. Put a pin in this, we'll come back to this. But here's the thing, liking something doesn't mean we have to embrace every single aspect of it uncritically. Unfortunately, there's been a normalization, I feel, of this anti-intellectualist rhetoric, where not thinking critically is seen as fun or freeing. Before Twitter got banned in Brazil, I used to constantly see tweets like, "I have no critical thinking skills, I give 5 stars to every book I read," on book Twitter. And although this might seem like a normal, lighthearted statement, I genuinely don't think this is a healthy way to approach media or life in general. We should be encouraging thoughtful engagement, not celebrating the lack of it. Which brings me to my next point. My favorite movies don't represent my values. Or do they? At first, it might seem pretty easy to say that my favorite movies or TV shows don't really reflect my personal values. We watch them for entertainment, after all, not because they reflect our worldview. If someone says to me, my favorite book is Red, White, and Royal Blue, my first thought will be, oh, you're gay, not, you must be a passionate supporter of the British monarchy, and therefore also condemn the centuries of imperialism and colonization and exploitation, and the deeply entrenched systems of racism and sexism that the Crown has historically upheld. However, I do think that saying my favorite movies don't really represent my values, for example, is a little bit, it's oversimplifying things a little bit. While I might not consciously agree with everything in them, the truth is that art holds the values of the people who created, and whether we realize it or not, by continuing to enjoy certain media, we might be subconsciously engaging with or even propagating those values. Let's think about this a little more. As I mentioned earlier, every film, book, song comes from a very specific perspective that reflects the values, experiences, and ideologies of the people who made it. As much as we like to think of movies as just entertainment, they are created within a social and cultural context. You think they just fell out of a coconut tree? Even when a movie doesn't seem political, it is shaped by the worldviews of its creator. Whether we are conscious of it or not, these perspectives do come across in the media we consume. This is particularly clear and troubling when we think about the media made by the dominant groups in society, whether it's in racial, gendered, or social-based elites. Stuart Hall's concept of television as a site of struggle explains this. He argued that media isn't neutral. Television is a place where social, cultural, and political tensions play out. Different groups in society have varying levels of influence over what gets produced and how it's framed. This means that media is frequently framed by the perspectives of those in power. Their values, which can be very harmful, are then normalized. So bringing back the conversation to my favorite movies, if I'm not critically engaging with what they are saying, then I might be, without even realizing, endorsing or reinforcing certain dominant ideas that I don't even agree with. This is pretty harmful when these values are oppressive. Okay, you might be thinking, what about media created in a different era? Of course, not all media is recent. Some of my favorite books were written a long time ago, like Persuasion by Jane Austen. That is her best book, Fight Me. And it is a piece of media that was created in a different historical and social context. That is important to consider because values change over time, and something that might seem completely unacceptable today might have been normalized in a different time. I have a personal example with this. I first read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie when I was 15, and I loved this book. I thought the mystery was so well crafted and put together. With that said, I cannot ignore how that book is also extremely racist, especially when we consider the original title. The racism in the text reflects the time period in which it was written, and although I can still appreciate the storytelling, I need to acknowledge and critique the problematic elements. It's not enough to simply say that's just how things were back in the day, because that minimizes and excuses the harm that these types of portrayals continue to perpetuate today. Enjoying a piece of media created in a different era doesn't mean that I agree with all the values that it upholds, but it does mean that I have to make an effort to engage with it critically and to be aware of what I'm consuming. If someone chooses to not engage with And Then There Were None because it's racist, that's valid. Yeah, with all that said, I can understand why someone might think, well, if I'm perpetuating harmful ideas by engaging with media made by the masses, then it's just better to not think about it at all, since ignorance is a bliss and all of that. And to that, I'll answer going back to the personal connection aspect. Sometimes we connect with something in such a personal way that it's really hard to be critical of it. But here's the thing, and I keep going back to this point. We have to learn to critique the media we love. If anything, the fact that I love something should make me want to think way more about it, since it plays such a big part in shaping my emotions and thoughts. And I'm aware I'm biased here, since my channel is literally 90% based on that. But I think criticizing media is like 90% of the fun of consuming it. That doesn't mean I write novel-length reviews on Letterboxd about every single movie I watched. Only Lemonade Mouth and Mean Girls 2024 for now. But it means that while watching a movie, I try to think about what the movie is trying to say and if I agree with that. And that's fun. That's super fun. I have such a fun time doing that. So I think it's time to answer the question, does enjoying a piece of media means I endorse its values? Not necessarily. As I mentioned earlier, there's a difference between enjoying something because of the nostalgia, relatability, or fun factor, or because the cinematography is pretty, or because of the nice violins in the third chorus, and agreeing with everything it says. With that said, I still think that we should be mindful of why we enjoy the things we like and what those things are actually saying, or else we are very likely to be propagating harmful ideas. Since media reflects the worldviews of the creators, and the creators are human, and humans are flawed, every piece of media is probably flawed in some sort of way. You can minutiously watch every second of any of my videos, and you'll probably find something I said that wasn't very nice. You'll probably find some bad take, because I am human and I am prone to making those sometimes. I try to be very mindful of what I put out into the world, because even though I have a pretty small platform, it's still a platform nonetheless, and I don't want to cause any harm. We cannot expect all media to be perfect. But this raises a few questions about media we think as especially harmful. What about media with problematic creators? Creators that are actively causing harm and are alive today. This is a messy situation. The best example I can give is probably Harry Potter, with the whole J.K. Rowling turf affairs. Here's the thing, guys, I used to really like Harry Potter. I had t-shirts. I still wear them just as my Pilates t-shirts now, because a good material t-shirt is a good material t-shirt, you know? Hi guys, I'm coming back from Pilates with my old Harry Potter t-shirt. But now knowing all the harm that J.K. Rowling has caused and keeps on causing to a lot of people, especially trans individuals, I've made the choice to not engage with the series anymore. I don't want to platform someone as harmful as J.K. Rowling in any shape or form. This is the action that I took because I recognize that J.K. Rowling's biggest thing is not money. A lot of people who still consume Harry Potter and critically use the excuse of, well, J.K. Rowling is a billionaire, the fact that I'm buying the books is not going to change that. And yeah, that's true. But you know what you are giving to her? Influence. J.K. Rowling has a huge amount of influence that she's using to actively cause harm to a group of people. That is why I chose to not engage with her creations, even the ones I liked, because I don't want to keep on giving her any semblance of influence. This doesn't mean everyone has to stop reading Harry Potter. This is what I did, and I do recognize that people deal with problematic creators in different ways. What is important is that we are aware of these things and that we make thoughtful, informed decisions on whether we want to engage with these creators or not. And what about when the media is very, very harmful by itself? One of the most difficult questions in this conversation is determining when a piece of media is so harmful that just engaging with it critically isn't enough. This is where things get really tricky because the thing is that this is very subjective. Recently, I watched a video, One Scene for Forgiveness, The Twilight Saga is Racist, by Native American YouTuber Ali Nadi, in which she discussed the harmful portrayals of Indigenous characters in Twilight, specifically of Emily Young, the only female Indigenous character in the series. Hearing her perspective made me realize how deeply the Twilight Saga perpetuated harmful stereotypes about Indigenous peoples that I didn't even realize were that. And to be fair, I have only seen the first 2 Twilight movies, but still, it was there from the beginning. In cases like this, it becomes much harder for me to say, well, I can just engage with this critically. The biggest problem is that Twilight is not only poorly done representation, it's a series that capitalized on Indigenous culture without care in a way that is still affecting the way the world sees this marginalized group up until today. So where do we draw the line? How do we decide that a piece of media is so harmful that just being critical isn't enough? For me, the key question is, how much harm does this media do and to whom? And more importantly, how is this harm translated into society beyond page or beyond screen or beyond sound? When media portrays marginalized people in harmful ways, this doesn't just stay in the realm of fiction. It often reflects and reinforces real-world beliefs, biases, and power dynamics. Media has such a powerful role in shaping the way we see others, especially those we don't have direct experience or contact with. If a book or movie or TV show reinforces harmful stereotypes or contributes to a larger system of oppression, then engaging with it, even critically, might feel like a sense of approval of that harm. I don't really have an answer to this question, and I'll contribute with something that I actually enjoy because I'm not a Twilight fan, so it's easy for me to say, oh, just don't watch Twilight. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, one of my all-time favorite shows. Now, Buffy has its fair share of problems, but one that I find particularly harmful is its portrayal of Romani people. So now I'm going to get into spoilers for Buffy Season 2. If you want to watch Buffy, skip to this time skip. In the second season, one of the recurring characters, Jenny Calendar, who was one of the teachers at Sunnydale High, the school, is revealed as an anti-hero in the story as she is a part of a Romani family that has cursed Buffy's vampire boyfriend Angel so that he will lose his soul and become a monster, basically a monster vampire who is evil all the time. And her family is not called like a Romani family. They are called that other word for it that is a slur. Romani people have been persecuted for such a long time, culturally and historically, and it's just not cool to have this marginalized group of people just be the villains, the fantasy villains of your supernatural teen show season. So this makes it hard for me because I love Buffy, but this is bad. This is really bad. And so this brings to the question, where do we draw the line? This is all incredibly subjective. I think something that has helped me reflect on whether I should keep engaging with certain media with problematic aspects is listening to the voices of those directly affected by these harmful portrayals. By centering the voices of those who are actually affected, I'm able to better understand the harm that it has caused, and it helps guide my decision making on whether I should keep on consuming the media or not. In the end, I don't think there is a clear, definite line we can all follow when it comes to if we think we should or not engage with certain harmful media. I don't know, But what I do know is that it's important for us to take the time to listen to the affected communities and reflect on the potential damage that the media causes so that we can make an informed decision on whether to engage with it or not. So, conclusion. Yes, we can enjoy media we disagree with. With critical thinking, I feel like it would be pretty weird for my conclusion to be any other. My last video was all about how much I love zombies, even though those movies have some weird political themes. I just want to finish this all by saying that critical thinking is key, and that Cristal Dabos still owes me therapy for the end of The Mirror Visitor. My second video, where I talked about the worst books I have ever read, and I mentioned that I love all the books in The Mirror Visitor, including Storm of Echoes, has aged rather poorly. I don't know if I still love the Storm of Echoes. I mean, I still really like it, but there's one specific twist in that book that I really don't like, and I wish was better established, and this is something I thought even then, but that's not the point. What about you guys? Do you have a piece of media that you love but kind of hate at the same time? And well, I think this is it for today. This is my first video essay that isn't focused on a specific topic, so I don't know how that will go. And don't worry guys, my next videos will be about specific topics. I just wanted to make this video because, well, because of the backstory that I mentioned earlier, but also because I'm working on a couple of videos that are going to take a while for me to finish, and I don't want to stay another month without posting anything. And guys, I just want to thank everyone so much for all the love in my zombies video. I'm so happy you guys seem to really like it, and I also really liked it. I think it's one of my favorite videos that I've made, but I'm just really happy that it resonated and that people enjoyed it. Don't worry, this channel will still have plenty of over-analysis of children's media in the future. It's crazy that I'm already wrapping up this video because I've only been filming for an hour. I think this video is going to be like 25 minutes long max, which is funny because usually I stay here for like 4 hours talking. But anyway, thank you guys so much. Comment down your thoughts because, as I said, I don't know the answer. I don't have all the answers. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Seriously, I'll be back soon. I'm very excited about my next videos. Kisses, bye. Should I sing something? I always say this. I have no idea. I didn't mention any song in this video, did I? Bye. Kisses. I'll see you soon. Bye. It's noon. The church bells are ringing. I don't know if you can hear that. I hope you can't. But yeah, church bells ringing. I hear those sleigh bells ringing. Santa, won't you bring me the one I really need? Won't you please bring my baby to me? I don't want a lot for Christmas. This is all I'm asking for. Okay, I'm sorry. It's September and I'm singing All I Want for Christmas Is You. Wait. Hard for us to see these pieces. Oh my god, where is that? So much noise. It's noon on a Sunday. You're supposed to be having barbecue, not making so much noise. Okay. Oh, why can't I speak today?